And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're going to be taking a look at Star Wars the card game. Now this was announced a while ago, and when we first heard about it, we thought it was going to be very similar to the Lord of the Rings card game, which is a cooperative game. It's not. This is now a two-player head-to-head game. They redesigned it from the ground up. It's a brand new game. Let's take a look at it. I'll kind of give you a bit about how the game plays, and then I have quite a few thoughts on it. The first thing we're going to talk about is deck building in this game. Now this is a living card game. What that means is that you can play this game straight out of the box, or you can add other card sets as time goes by. There already is a little Hoth set out for the game, and there will be more as time progresses. This game comes with some basic sets. They tell you exactly how to build your starting deck, so you can do that to play the game. There's 4 starting decks that you can use, but you can also mix up the cards in the game, or even use some of the cards that are out for Hoth if you buy that set. The way this game works are, these cards come like in packs. So, for example here, this is an objective pack, and this is an objective that you would try to complete. And when you build a deck, you have to have at least 10 of these objectives in your deck. Each objective comes with some cards here. So let's say I picked 10 objectives, and one of my objectives is this one, A Hero's Journey. That will also give me these cards: Trust Your Feelings, Luke Skywalker, Dagobah Training Grounds, a Twi'lek Loyalist, and a Jedi Lightsaber. And there's numbers at the bottom of the card, so you know which cards come with which pack. So I can pick this objective, and then I will put these cards in my deck. So after picking 10 objectives, I will have a deck of 50 cards, because 5 cards come with each objective. Now, at the beginning of the game, one player is going to play light side, and one player is going to play dark side. Each person will pick their faction. So for the example, the bad guys can be Scum and Villainy, Sith, Imperial Navy. The good guys can be Rebel Alliance, Smugglers and Spies, or Jedi. Now, you don't have to pick your objectives based on what faction you are. Although some objectives will say 1 per deck. Some objectives will say you can only use this with Smugglers, or Scum and Villainy, for example, what have you. Now, other than that, though, you can mix them as long as you take light side or dark side, and there's a limit of 2 of the same objective per deck normally. So I could put 2 Heroes Journeys, which would give me 2 Luke Skywalkers, 2 Trust Your Feelings, and so on in my other decks. You're going to have 2 decks of cards, one deck made up of 10 or more objectives, the other deck made up of a whole pile of cards based on the objectives that you've picked. At the beginning of the game, you're going to have 3 objectives that you put in front of you. You're actually going to draw 4 and pick 3 of those 4 that you will start with. Some objectives give you special abilities. Some have a reaction when they're played. For example, here, Fall of the Jedi. After my draw phase begins, place a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. So I can do that. Each of these objectives will be giving you resources that you'll be able to use to put cards out. Some give you more than 1 resource. They also have basically a hit point value here. That's how much it takes to destroy that. And then there might be a flavor text and a picture, etc. Now, the goal of the light side player is to destroy 3 or more dark side objectives. If they do that, they win. Also, if they force you to go through your whole deck, they win, but I don't know, that's possible. The dark side player on the other side hand has a little Death Star counter that they're going to be knocking down each turn. And once this reaches 12, they win. They can also win if they destroy all the light side objectives, and I suppose that's possible, but I'm assuming that 99% of the time this is how the dark side is going to win, by getting the Death Star counter to 12 at some point. So each side has a very different end goal in mind. As players place cards out, they're going to be placing these tokens on the card. This shows I've used a resource in this card. I showed a resource. I can use up to 3 resources on this card up here at the Heart of the Empire. However, at the same time, at the beginning of each turn, you'll take 1 off of each card. Although some cards have special abilities to take off more than 1. And in fact, your affiliation card that you have also allows you to use resources, so that will help sometimes as the game progresses. You'll start with at least 4 resources, hopefully, that you can use to put out cards. So you get to take off one of those. As the game progresses, you will have characters in the game. So for example, I have Darth Vader here. If I used him for an action last turn, he'll have a token on, and I will need to take that token off to be able to use him again. After players have done that, then they're going to be able to deploy cards in front of them. The deploy cost is the number up here in the top left, and you basically have to spend that many resources. So for example, in this case, if I didn't have anything here, I could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And at least one of the resources that you spend has to match the affiliation of Darth Vader. So the Scum and Villainy card I could use for one of them, but I would need to have at least one coming from the same affiliation here, which happens to be the Empire. So Darth Vader here, you can see he has a lot of different things in his card, but he's not that complicated. Most of the characters that you have out there will have some special abilities. Like for example, he's a Force user, he's elite, so I take off an extra Force token at the beginning of the round. So if there happens to be 2 on him, I could take them both off rather than just 1. And anytime I play an event card with that symbol on it, I do 1 damage to a target unit. Now, what players are going to be doing is they're going to be putting out units in a deployment phase, and then if they want to, they have a conflict phase that they'll play. Now, not everything is a unit. You'll be able to play other cards, event cards, and enhancement cards. For example, here on Darth Vader, I might be able to play Vader's lightsaber on him and give him a special ability. But I will, at some point, either attack or defend the other person's objectives. They're going to come after your objective. So when that happens, you're going to say, I'm attacking with a certain number of people. And then your defender will say, I'm going to defend with these different people. Once you decided who's attacking and defending, then the game comes down to an interesting mechanic. First thing that you will do in a battle is have what is called the edge battle. After you determine who's attacking and such, the person who's attacking, let's say in this instance it's the light side player, will place a card down in their edge battle, or they can just concede that they've lost the edge. Then the dark side player can play a card or pass, and players will keep going as they're playing cards into these stacks. And then the light side says he passed, dark side player plays one more card from their hand. Now, since you're going to draw up to your hand size each turn, you can discard one card, draw up to your hand size. It's not a bad idea to put cards down here. These cards will be lost, but you might have wanted to put out whatever else the card was used for. Because what's going to happen is, we're going to turn these over and count the number of icons on the side. Force icons, we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Force icons for the light side, because he basically gave up Yoda. He's not going to play Yoda, but he's using him probably to win this edge battle. And over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the dark side player. However, the dark side player also played this card here. It's a fate card. Fate cards can be used in edge battles, and so this one says deal 1 damage to a target participating enemy unit. So let's say Luke Skywalker's attacking, so I do 1 damage to him. However, at this point, the light side has the edge. The battle now begins in earnest, and what that means is each player is going to use one of their characters by putting a focus token on them one at a time, starting with the player who has the edge. Each player will then use the icons on the card in order from left to right. However, only the player who has won the edge can use the ones that are in white. For example, you can see Obi-Wan here has 4 icons. However, if the light side had not won the edge, Obi-Wan would have only been able to use 2 of those icons. The icons are pretty simple. There's 3 different types. There's a gun, which lets you do damage to someone else. So for example, if I use this Jedi in hiding, I could do 2 damage to another character. The asterisks here then lets you do 1 damage to the target that you're attacking. So if I'm attacking a base, I can hit that base. And then these target symbols here let me put focus tokens on other people, even people not involved in the battle. So I could put a focus token on someone else, and they wouldn't even get to attack in that battle. So I put them on Darth Vader, and now Darth Vader can't do anything to get us. Ha ha ha, Darth Vader. Obi-Wan has stopped you once again. And so this will go back and forth as players will place these focus tokens under characters to use them, and then characters will die. It's a possibility that the objective will be destroyed, which could be bad for both sides if that happens, with repercussions, and characters will die. And then after that's over, you can start another fight, or you can just continue to go on until the end of the round. At the end of the round, each player has the option to use the Force. Each player has 3 of these cards. you can put these cards on any of your characters if you want. That character is committed to the ways of the Force. Some characters come out already. That doesn't mean, for example, if you put this one on Jawa, that Jawa can use the Force. No, that just would mean that Jawa is really for the light side or really for the dark side. These have a disadvantage here because whenever they are focused to attack someone else, you have to put 2 focus tokens on them rather than 1. So there is a disadvantage. However, at the beginning of a round, or at the end of each round, you're going to compare who has the most people with Force-centric on your side. Some locations give that too. And that's going to matter as to what side we will have this token on here in the middle. If it's on this side, that means when it's the Dark player's turn, the Death Star moves 2 spaces instead of 1. So the Dark side definitely wants to have more of these guys out. However, if it's on the light side, each turn, the light side player can just add 1 damage token to an objective of their choice, which can be very devastating. So there's this Force battle going on in the background. So anyway, after the end of your turn, there will be some cleanup. You go to the next person's turn. This is always checked at the beginning of a turn to see if any of the special effects happen. You keep going until the Death Star blows up the light side, or the light side destroys 3 dark side objectives, or till one player can't draw any cards from their deck, in which case they lose. Star Wars, the card game, is a mixed bird, and I'm going to just start out by saying that my final opinions on it are kind of not there yet. And the reason for that is I really feel that this game is going to benefit from expansions or from the more coming out. For example, there's the Scum and Villainy. I was really excited about that. Boba Fett's in the game, but there's only 1 objective deck for them right now. I would like to play with a whole Scum and Villainy. So to see how that works, I'll have to wait till enough of those cards come out in future sets. I know that there's like a large expansion coming out that will probably have plenty of those in it. As for the game itself I think is very well designed. It's a very well designed game. It's very balanced. Let's talk about things I like about it. First of all, I think it's very asymmetrical. Now, I mentioned that the game is balanced, but I've had people tell me very firmly that the dark side has the advantage, and I've had a couple of people tell me the light side has the advantage. To me, that's probably the mark of a good game, that people think one side or the other has the advantage. Another good thing about the game is that you can play with all your heroes. You don't have to wait and look for rare cards like Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and so on. They're there. You know, you can get them in your deck. It's easy. You can put multiples in your deck, although you can only have, for example, 1 Luke Skywalker on the table, but you can put more than 1 in your deck. Another thing I really like about the game is I really like that edge battle. I think that's a neat concept to the game. It's fun. It's not a complicated thing. There's a few cards that can really mess things up. There's one that like resets the whole edge battle and you play again, so you've suckered your opponent into playing some of his good cards. And like, for example, where I showed you where I put Yoda down, a lot of points using Yoda in an edge battle, but then I'm not have Yoda out on the board. And the game plays quickly. We're talking 30-minute games. It's not hard. It plays, it snowballs really fast, and then the game's over. Those are the good points. The thing that really wears on me, and I know some of you might scoff and scorn at this, but I love Star Wars. I like all the things. I even like the new movies, so blah, haters. But I like Star Wars quite a bit. And this game never felt at its core like Star Wars. There's some really odd things that can happen. I can attack you with a Wampa and you can defend with a Corellian Corvette. That's odd. That doesn't make any sense at all. And you can justify that thematically, and but in essence, there's a lot of the stuff that's abstracted, and so that seems just strange. And that, I don't know. And I can get over that because it is cool, and some of the characters do have feelings, and it is neat to see some of these battles and matchups occur. It just sometimes the Star Wars feel isn't there. I really feel they could have rethemed this as a spy game or some other sort of game, and the game would have worked really well. If you take the Star Wars theme out of this game, it doesn't get rid of the game itself. The game is still a solid game, which it goes to show that the theme isn't as strong as I'd want it to be. The other thing is, as in all games like this, card draw can really mess you up. You can really draw poorly, your opponent draw better than you, and once they get a couple really good characters out and you don't, there's not a lot that you can do about that. You can hope to get cards, and yes, I'm sure there's going to be a whole deck building craze where people are going to say, these 10 objectives are the deck to put together. Now, back to the positive thing, I do like that the deck building is objective-based rather than single card-based. That's pretty cool. I may not want to put Jawas in my deck or Ewoks, but I want that other card, so I have to take those with it. That's a neat idea, although that must be a bear for the playtesting team to check out. So, like I said, all this leads me to kind of a neutral thing. I'm going to keep it because I suspect that the game will get great as expansions come by. And the gameplay itself is solid. Yes, there's that random card draw thing and the occasionally unbalanced battle, but I don't mind that because the game plays so quickly. The theme is a more bothersome problem for me, but again, I think that may be alleviated as time goes by. Now, some people might not like the living card game system, and they just want to play the game out of the box. There's plenty to play out of the box. You'll get a lot. The box is oversized for what you get, but that's because eventually we'll be able to put all those other cards in it. I assume that this will be able to hold cards for quite a long period of time. The artwork is phenomenal. Phenomenal artwork. I thought it would be like pictures from the movies, but instead it's drawings and some of my favorite pictures. I like to put pictures behind me on my screens. I like my screensavers, and I have found a lot of cool Star Wars artwork. Some of the artwork that I found is from this game, so very exciting in that regard. So this is certainly one for my recommendation here where I'm going to say try it before you buy it, if you can. And Fantasy Flight does a good job at getting demos out everywhere. It may be something that tickles your goat. If you're someone who buys everything Star Wars, well then, fine, there you go. But for the rest of you, it certainly is a good, solid game with a tenuous grasp on the theme, but with great potential. We'll see where it leads in the future.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door! Shut the door!
Shut the door!